Good afternoon, and welcome to today's VetNet Entrepreneurship Track Hangout entitled Cybersecurity for Small Business. My name is Mike Shenick, and I'm the Program Manager for Boots to Business and VetNet here at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families located on the campus of Syracuse University. Today we have a special treat in hand as one of our program graduates, Tarena Muhammad, will be taking us through the presentation. Tarena graduated from our VWise program, and I'll now turn things over to her, let her introduce herself, and then we will get started. Before we do so, though, a few quick housekeeping notes on how to ask questions. We are going to hold all questions till the end of the presentation today. You can ask questions by posting them to the YouTube stream, to the event page here on Google+, in the chat function, which can be enacted by hovering over the top left-hand side of your screen in the chat function blue icon. Click that and type your question in the box on the right. Or at the end of the Hangout, when we open up the Q&A session, if you're participating live, you can ask them. So Tarena, I will now turn things over to you and let you take over.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Tarena Muhammad of Armera Cyber Solutions, and we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity for small business. A little about myself. I got started in IT and information assurance in the Air Force, and I've been in the field for almost 14 years. I've overseen information security training and compliance programs in numerous organizations within the Air Force intelligence communities. I then went on to do some high-level information system support in the financial sector. I hold a master's degree in cybersecurity policy, and I'm also a contributing member to a research community with other public and private sector partners, and we focus on bringing awareness to small business owners on current cybersecurity events and concerns for small and medium-sized businesses, or SMBs. So as Mike said, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, just think of 2 or 3 burning questions or concerns that you have about small business cybersecurity and submit them at the end. And I want to make sure that I can address all of your questions offline if we can't get to them during the Q&A today. So let's jump right in. Excuse me. So when I talk to other small business owners about cybersecurity, what I'm noticing is that many don't think they need to be concerned with incorporating security into their operations because they're under the impression that their businesses are too small to attract attention from hackers, or they don't make enough money for a hacker to want to pursue their businesses. The fact is, small businesses are extremely valuable to hackers, primarily because they don't often have the resources, manpower, or time to implement solid security controls, and enterprise-level solutions are often cost-prohibitive for small organizations. Also, if you're contracting with a bigger company, chances are if your security is inadequate, they might be able to infiltrate the larger company through vulnerabilities in yours, and this has happened on multiple occasions. Now, compounding these challenges is the fact that we are simply not prepared for security incidents and breaches, and this particular challenge is putting small business owners at a serious disadvantage in cyberspace. So it's important for you all to know that you will at some point experience a security incident or breach, and I'll get into what these terms mean in a little bit, but it will happen to each of us at some point in our journey. So in order to recover from an incident or breach, preparation is crucial, and often you'll find your level of preparation will determine whether your business will survive after an incident or breach or fail in the aftermath. Now, large corporations, they spend millions of dollars annually on security, and they still get attacked, and in a lot of cases, they still get hacked. So it's inevitable, and the viability of your business after an attack will most times be directly related to your level of preparation. Now, incidents versus breaches. Incidents involve attempts to access your company's data or information systems, to disrupt or deny services, or change system hardware or software characteristics without your consent. Where a security breach is usually an incident that results in unauthorized access to your company's data or information systems. Now, there are various methods of attack that hackers use to gain access to small businesses, and new ones emerge every day. But the ones you should keep your eyes on at the current time are social engineering, phishing and spear phishing, and attacks against your websites. Now, social engineering, this process usually involves piecing together information about a subject through various channels. Older strategies involved engaging with the target in person or over the phone, to try to finesse the target into divulging personal information or corporate secrets. More modern tactics involve studying the target's social media profiles. More often than not, if you're on social media, you should assume you have too much information about yourself on your profiles. Excuse me, and if you don't have privacy settings established, it's relatively easy for hackers to gather information about you. So they can use things such as pet names, children's names, addresses, favorite sports teams, favorite destinations, favorite musical artists. These are especially helpful pieces of information when hackers are trying to figure out your passwords. And there are tools they can use to plug in some of these words or phrases that can crack your passwords almost instantly. So that means your password management practices need to be solid, and we'll get into that more in upcoming sections. Now, phishing and spear phishing. This process typically involves sending out spoofed emails from what closely resembles a legitimate source. These emails will usually tell the recipient to update their passwords or other personal information by clicking a link embedded in the email. Now, the link might have a very subtle change that distinguishes the malicious link from a legitimate link, or it might appear as the actual link, but when you hover over the link, the actual web address is different. And then attacks against your websites. Now, for those of you who have websites and know where to look, you might see numerous events where someone is attempting to log into your admin area. You'll be surprised how often it happens. For me, it's about every other day. Your username and password to your username exclusively to your admin area should not be the obvious admin, administrator, company name, owner's names, or social media aliases. All of these have been used in attempts to access my admin area in the past, and they'll be used to access yours if you have websites. Passwords are one of the easiest ways into a system, and the username is usually not that difficult to figure out. So if you're using one of these usernames to log onto your admin area, my advice to you would be to change it immediately. Now, another way they can get into your website is through outdated plugins, themes, or versions. So you have to make sure you conduct your upgrades as soon as you receive notification that they've been released, because literally the longer you wait to do the upgrades, the greater their window of attack, and that means they can do more damage. They can also look up particular website vulnerabilities if your version is visible anywhere on your website. And finally, SQL injection is currently the #1 threat to website security. I'll be publishing some free resources soon that take a deeper look at website security and provide step-by-step instructions for layered website security geared more toward WordPress users, but SQL injections will also be covered more in depth in these guides. So for those who are interested, the details will be provided at the end of the webinar. But basically, SQL injection involves the attacker gaining unauthorized access to your databases through input fields on your website. So for instance, if you have a username and password field for your users, the attacker can use SQL statements to gain access to one or more user accounts without the actual username and password. So if your databases are not properly secured, it'll be fairly easy for hackers to bypass authentication and gain access to your databases and potentially your admin area. At that point, they can change your admin password and you'll no longer be able to log in, at which point they can do whatever they want with your website at that point, and I'm sure you can imagine how that could affect your brand. Mobile vulnerabilities. Now, many of us in the small business community are shifting to mobilized operations and usually conduct businesses through our smartphones and tablets. The conveniences of mobile operations are phenomenal, but what many small business owners don't realize is your mobile devices are not innately secure. So checking for and securing controls on your devices should be the first thing you do before transferring your data to the new device. And I think it goes without saying that you should make sure your current devices have adequate security also. Mobile operations can expose your business to a greater pool of threats and vulnerabilities because security is limited. And that means your monetary and communication transactions are visible to all who can intercept that data, which is not hard to do if the data is not protected. So your data can be monitored and recorded without your knowledge and can also be altered during transmission to reflect a different message at the receiving end, meaning you could infect your contacts without even knowing it. So you should pay close attention to mobile applications also, taking care to confirm that the developer is legitimate. Similar to phishing and spear phishing campaigns, malicious mobile applications are rising in popularity because we download them so much. It can be used to collect personal data from you, either by your own input or by weakening your defenses after you download the app, and this is usually accomplished by gaining administrator-level access to your devices. In these cases, you as the user will rarely be able to detect if your phone has been compromised, and newer threats aren't easily identifiable by antivirus or anti-malware controls. So if your business is mobile and you don't already have plans in place for mobile security, you should start looking into mobile security options as soon as possible. Common signs of attacks and breaches. So I mentioned before that you won't always be able to tell you're being attacked or have been hacked, but there are some telltale signs that you should know, so you'll be able to spot suspicious behavior on your computers, mobile devices, or websites. And some of the older ones that you're probably familiar with are pop-ups. We've seen these before at some point, and when this happens, your computer screen is flooded with what seems like a million windows that pop up every time you close another one. It's an endless, vicious cycle. It still happens. So that's one sign that you probably have a problem. Fake virus infection messages. These are usually pop-ups telling you your computer has been infected and you need to contact the company immediately to have the infections removed. Now, they'll ask for your banking information, which is just a ploy to gain access to your bank account in addition to taking full control of your computer after you've clicked on the link. Lately, I've seen where there's one pop-up in the browser window screaming, warning, 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 and you can't seem to bypass it. The trick there is to go into your task manager, select your browser, whether it be Chrome, Firefox, or some other browser, and then click End Task, and this will close out the window for you. Browser toolbars. These are usually toolbar add-ons that you didn't install or authorize, and they're often from unrecognizable sources. And then unexpected software installs. This will be similar to the browser toolbars. If you have unrecognizable software installed on your computer, you're likely compromised. Mouse moving on its own. This is one of the more obvious signs. If your mouse is moving, ladies and gentlemen, but you're not the one moving it, someone has gained access to your system. Disabled antivirus and anti-malware software. If your antivirus software has crashed or you see a message saying the software has been disabled when you try to launch it, you've probably been compromised. There are numerous threats out there that can disable antivirus controls. Sluggish computer. That usually means there are a lot of resources running on your computer, and that could come from someone gaining unauthorized access to your network, which would typically impact your network speed. So for mobile devices, you want to look for odd charges on your statements, obviously, rapid and frequent battery drainage. I'm sorry, I got the wrong slides. Hold on one second. So rapid and frequent battery drainage. Now, we tend to think the longer we have our devices, the shorter the battery life becomes, and sometimes that's the case, but mobile malware can also drain your battery life. Installing malicious apps. Now, as I mentioned briefly earlier, we have to take care to verify that the source of an app is legitimate. Don't download apps from sources you haven't properly vetted. For your websites, you want to make sure you have mechanisms in place to monitor website activity for suspicious behavior. If you don't know where to look or what to look for, there are various plugins that you can use to help identify suspicious behavior and eradicate the problem if the damage isn't too extensive. But you also need to be checking your logs and your cron jobs in your cPanel or similar platforms for things that look out of place, as well as checking your files to see if they've been modified. Now, unusual spikes in traffic or an influx of traffic from locations you don't normally receive much traffic from can also be indicative of an emerging security issue. So you should also be inspecting your website from your admin area, but also from your end user's perspective, meaning that while you're logged out of your admin area, you should be looking at your website from the point of view of the user to make sure that your links are pointing in the right directions. They're not pointing to unaffiliated or malicious websites. Now, reputable security plugins and website security companies can monitor all of these items and more 24/7 and send you real-time updates so you can take immediate action where necessary. Now, there's another classic sign that applies to all of the different operating platforms, whether they be laptops, mobile devices, or your websites, and that is a randomly changed password. It's a common sense kind of thing, but not everybody understands this. If you receive an email that says your password to any account has been changed, or that there was an attempt to change your password and you're not the one who made the change, do not take it lightly. That means your account has either been hacked or someone is attempting to hack your account. Which leads me to my next small but critical point, password management. Now, if you've worked, especially in an enterprise environment, you can probably recite the password guidelines backwards in your sleep, but password management is not always understood by everyone, so I deem it my duty to go over it here today. Make sure your passwords are strong, everybody. Strong passwords and password management practices can help you avoid exposing your personal or business information in many cases. So your password characteristics should be a minimum of 8 characters, containing a combination of uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. You should change your passwords often. Every 60 or 90 days is recommended, but I'm starting to see every 45 days floating around lately as well. Now, I know we have a million passwords for as many different accounts today, and coming up with and remembering a new password every 2 to 3 months is cumbersome, but it is so important and so necessary if you want to keep unauthorized parties from accessing your data. Avoid using the same username and password for multiple accounts. The reason is, if one account is compromised, then every other account with the same authentication characteristics can and most likely will be compromised. Avoid writing your passwords down and leaving them under your keyboard, stuck to your monitor, in your desk drawers, or any other conspicuous locations. Remembering passwords is a challenge, but it's not worth the risk of someone discovering your passwords. You can use password generators to help you come up with new passwords, and you can use password storage applications to help you keep track of your passwords. However, I have to say, and this is not directed at any particular developer of password storage applications, but keep in mind that they can also be hacked. So going back to what I was saying about malicious mobile apps, remember that if you download a password storage app from a malicious source, you have just given a criminal access to every single username and password you've stored in that app. So make sure you're conducting due diligence before entrusting these apps to store this kind of information. Investing in security solutions. Now, there are a variety of options out there for small business owners to increase your security. It's important to keep in mind that antivirus and anti-malware tools are a great first step, but working alone, they will not provide adequate security. Many antivirus developers promise that all threats can be detected and disposed of, but the truth is, newer threats, especially ones less than 24 hours old, they're often undetectable if the antivirus provider hasn't updated the signatures that are necessary to detect the newest threats. And as I mentioned before, there are some really strong threats out there that can completely disable your antivirus software, even if you keep the software up to date. So it would be beneficial for you to look into additional solutions that provide added security on top of your antivirus controls. Now, if you have a brick and mortar business, your security needs will be different than a digital business. So out of respect for your time, I'm just going to cover digital businesses today. Now, you have the options in form of cloud security and traditional security. So for small businesses, cloud security might be the ideal choice. And here are a few reasons why. So with cloud, you don't have to pay upfront costs. It's a subscription-based model, so your monthly payments are relatively predictable. You don't have to conduct system upgrades or maintenance. Traditional solutions would involve hardware and software that would require upgrades and patches, and will require you to either learn the skills to do the upgrades on your own, which costs money, or hire technical support. So now you have additional overhead. My next point needs no explanation. You don't have to hire IT staff to manage your information systems and security, so you'll have more time to work on your business and less stress when it comes to security. And finally, scalability. You only pay for what you use, and you can add and remove services as necessary and know upfront how much those changes will cost you. Traditional methods, they require the exchange of new hardware and software at a minimum, and also will include unpredictable price quotes, extensive change control to document and test the functionality of the new hardware and software, and potentially you'll face some system downtime because there's always the possibility that the new hardware and software won't be compatible with your legacy equipment. Recommendations for implementing security. Now, there are a great deal of resources available online to help small business owners understand how to develop a security program. The Department of Homeland Security has a list of tips to help guide you in this area, and I've attached the link in one of the slides further down. Also, the Federal Trade Commission has developed a cyber planner for small business owners, and you can find that at www.fcc.gov/cyberplanner. However, what I will say is that these resources should be used as frameworks to help you guide you in the right direction in determining what kinds of controls you might need to implement, but they should not be used as a final solution. And the reason is, you have to keep in mind that our businesses are unique, and as such, there's no cookie-cutter solution to help you figure it out. These resources are phenomenal and very informative, but in order to really prepare your business for cyber attack, you need to thoroughly examine how you process and store information and the types of information that your company deals with. Now, how will you notify your customers if you're under attack or have been breached? That's one of the things that you should consider. Other things you should consider is how will you explain to your customer that their data has been compromised if you've been hacked? How will you deal with potential lawsuits after an incident or breach? Does your industry have any reporting requirements? What will you do if your customer data is stored on your home laptop with no backups and you spill water on your laptop? What security threats and vulnerabilities are trending in your particular industry? Should you invest in cyber insurance? Is your industry currently one that's highly targeted? Things change so often in the cybersecurity landscape, so how will you keep abreast of those changes and adjust accordingly? These are all considerations, critical considerations for small business owners, and there's more, because it changes so often. Another consideration is training. It doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or if you have a team of 5 employees, you'll need to implement a formal training program addressing everything from password management to disaster recovery in order to keep security in check. These things help you prepare and also help guide you when an incident does occur. So again, there's no such thing as total protection in cyberspace, but preparation is the key. So your security policies should address all of these things I mentioned and more, and should be something you examine at least quarterly to make sure you're on the right track. Okay, so there's your resources. Go ahead and take those down. Take a look at those. Very informative, very helpful. But again, they should be used as frameworks only. They shouldn't be the end-all, be-all, the determining factor of your small business cybersecurity program. You have to look at your business, examine it thoroughly, and that'll help you understand the best route to take when you're coming up with a cybersecurity program. So again, I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for spending time with me today, and a special thanks to VWise, who I'm a proud graduate, IVMF, and the VetNet Entrepreneurs Network for giving me this platform. If you're interested, I have an infographic from the research group I'm a part of called Understanding Cyber Threats, and we developed this specifically for small and medium-sized business owners. The infographic is free. There's no opt-in. So you can send an email. It's right there in the slide, inquiries@armerasecurity.com to request it. And also for those interested in the website security guide I'll be publishing soon, send an email to the same address to request it. The guide is free, but there is a required opt-in, and so your email requesting the guide will be considered express consent to receive updates about the guide and newsletters from us. And I'll be standing by now for a Q&A if you have any questions, and if not, I hope the remainder of the week is a very productive one for each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarena. So we have 3 questions that came through over the course of the Hangout. So the first one we'll go backwards. The first one we have from Irv Dungy on G+. What are some of the more popular / secure cloud providers you would suggest?
McAfee is a good one.
Okay.
McAfee has a good one. Trend Micro also has good ones.
Okay,
so
great.
Take a look at those.
The next question we have is from Anastasia Fleming. What password generators do you recommend or have you used?
I actually use the password generator that is in my control panel for my website. When I go in to create email accounts, they have an inherent password generator that I use that one, but I can't think of any particular ones off the top of my head. But if you send me an email, then I can give you some really good ones after I do some research.
Okay, great. And then the last question we had is from Mike Brewer on Google Plus, and it says, where should I look for some of the mobile security options? I think that this goes back to when you were talking about the kind of mobile device hacks that are going on.
Well, you'll find mobile security with many of your laptop security providers. Like again, Trend Micro, they're a really good one. Symantec, I use Symantec for my mobile device. McAfee, I believe they have a good mobile security. So any of the top name providers that you would use on your home computer, take a look at those because they most likely have mobile options. And again, the key is to just make sure that you keep that software updated both on your laptops or computers and on your mobile devices. Anytime they get out of date, that's a chance for you to, get hacked. So you have to be careful with that.
Thank you. And then we have one question just come through from Kristen O'Neill on G+, and she says, if we wanted to get a copy of the slides, can we email you at the Inquiry's email account as well?
Absolutely.
Great. Great. Well, I'll have Jim really quick look to see if there's any other questions out there. But in the meantime, we want to say thank you to you, Tarena, and to all folks who have tuned in today for the Hangout. It's always a special treat, as I mentioned before, for us to have one of our program graduates come on and see how successful they are doing. So thanks again. Just got a note from Jim that we do not have any other questions. So at this point, I think we'll go ahead and close out the no other questions. Okay. We'll go ahead and close out the Hangout, and thank you again, Tarena, for taking the time out of your day for sharing your expertise with us. And I encourage folks to go ahead and reach out to Tarena with any further questions. So that being said, thank you very much, and we'll have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.